God bless you guys out there tonight. Hope you're doing well. It's pouring down rain here in North Carolina. Yesterday was a beautiful day. It was like in the 70s here. It's been like we've been under a heat wave. I think most of the country has over the past week or two. Been like 102, 110, 110, 110. Anyway, so yesterday was it was perfect out here. Today it's raining. Tomorrow's going to be raining. So as I was sitting around thinking today, I was thinking about a video that I could share tonight. While I had some extra time, and I got to thinking about some things that I've been noticing, I've been experiencing. We've been doing a lot of saltwater fishing here lately. Just kind of something new, just to try to get into something new, and it's peaceful out there. God's creation. You have this ocean, and it's like when you go fishing, it's so fun because you never know what you're going to catch in the ocean. Where we're at right now, mostly it's just rivers and lakes around here. We just, do a lot of pond fishing, lake fishing, river fishing, things like that, but it's not as fun. And so, anyway, what we had been doing is, been spending a lot of time down in Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach and places like that. And mainly because they're having big events. They're having more events than they ever have, but they're really big events. And some of the events are like all day or all weekend, 3-day events. And so we've been doing a lot of ministry down there. And kind of the good thing about it is I've tried to feel, well, if we preach a little in the morning and then there's a break. God bless you brothers out there too, Brother Kevin, End Times Fisherman. God bless you. And while we have breaks, break times or whatever, I told the boys, let's go do something different. Let's grab a rod and reel and let's do some saltwater fishing and stuff. So over a period of time now, we've become familiar with a lot of things. It's just like everything. Everything has a learning curve, and so with saltwater fishing is totally different than freshwater fishing. You've got the tides, the times, what's biting, what's not biting, what's in the inlets, what's in the, near the pier, if you're pier fishing, if you're surf fishing. So it's a whole different kind of ball game. So anyway, I was thinking about some things that had happened and how it really relates to street ministry, how it relates to Christianity, really, and not just street ministry. Well, God bless you, Kevin. Let's go. Anytime you want to go, man, I'd love for you to come along. We can preach, we can fish a little bit. But as I was going saltwater fishing over the past couple of weeks, or the past couple of months, I guess, just because it's not like, it's just a little bit here, a little bit there. So kind of putting all this together, we was there a couple of weeks ago, and two young guys had come out on the pier, and we'd seen them fishing, and you could tell they were really new to the fishing and all in general. Basically, they had spinning rods that they were turning upside down, and they didn't really know how to bait certain things, didn't know what to use. They were trying to catch smaller fish on a fish hook that big. It was just, you could tell they were really new to it, sort of like we were at one point in time. And I'm going to tie all this in as far as, being a rookie at any hobby, just like Christianity. We all have to start somewhere. And this is kind of where I get this title from. Are you an intimidator, or are you an educator / an encourager, an encouragement kind of person? Because when you ask yourself that question, you're going to realize that you fall into one of those two categories. And a lot of times you're going to find out that Christians fall into more of the intimidator than they do the educator / encourager. And I want to, like I said, I want to talk about these two guys that they came on the fishing pier. You could tell they were rookies. You could tell they were new to it. And so, we had been fishing a little bit on the pier, and, we had a fishing cart, a small fishing cart, and we had rods on it, and, we use it for, fishing. We use it for preaching. We use it for whatever. And, anyway, we had our rods lined up on this cart. We had a little cooler there. And in case we caught a fish, we had some drinks in there, some snacks. And anyway, as we were leaving that afternoon, we'd been out there for some time. We were leaving, And, as we were leaving, one of the young guys in the group said, hey, they had just caught a fish and they was reeling it in. They got it onto the pier and they said, hey, ask those guys right there. I mean, you could tell they know what they're doing. Man, look at their cart and everything. These guys look like they're professionals. And so he said, hey, sir. And I was like, yeah. And so he's like, could you tell us what kind of fish this is? And of course, my son Abe, he was like, yeah, that's a whiting. Of course, it depends on where you're from. They call them different things, different names for different areas. But we just told him the name of the fish or whatever. And we were like, yeah, if you catch a bigger one of those, it's really good to eat, and that's what we hope for when we go out there. We're out there preaching and things like that. And then when we get this time to go out and to have some downtime, we go to the nearest body of water or the fishing pier or whatever and enjoy God's creation right there. Until it's time to go back to preaching or whatever. And, but anyway, we hope to bring stuff home ourselves, and we knew these guys were doing the same thing. So anyway, they asked us about do we know what it was? And, they were like, well, man, by the way they look, they're professionals at this. But little did they know, we probably were not much more educated in the saltwater fishing than they were, but it was, I guess, by appearance. And it got me to thinking about, that and Christianity. And I want to give you a few more examples before I tie this together. But, anyway, we could have said, hey, you mean to tell me that that's the most common fish on the pier and you don't know what that is? We could have said something like that. We could have had a display or a tone about us that may have come across a different, maybe intimidating. I'm going to tell you how all this ties together in a minute, and so, I think another day, a young man came on the pier. He was probably about 15 years old, I guess, 14, 15 years old. And he came on with a bait caster, and it's really not, it's nothing wrong with using those on a fishing pier. But they have more different, so a better selection, put it that way, for targeting certain fish. And so we've seen that he was using, like some artificial baits that you would use like back at home where we were at, some for freshwater fishing. And so we noticed he was kind of peeping out of the corner of his eyes as he was standing near us, and he was watching other people and stuff. And then he got missing. Well, he went back into the bait and tackle store at the beginning of the pier and bought a whole new rod. He bought a whole new setup. He had different lures, different plugs, different bait, all kinds of stuff. And so, he came down to where we were at, and I told Abe, I said, listen, he's about your age. I said, go over there and talk to him. You can tell he's new. Strike up a conversation with him, see where he's from, see if you can help him out. And so that's what he did. And so as we had gotten into the saltwater fishing, we started hand tying our own rigs so we didn't have to buy them. So we got really good at it. And so we had them in little clear little bags, and we gave him one, and we said, because the guy said, man, you guys are catching fish. He's like, I don't know how to catch fish out here or whatever. He says, first time I've ever even fished on a pier. So we said, look, this works for us. We're going to let you have one of ours. So we give it to him. He starts catching fish. Abe talked to him. Long story short, he had to go that day or whatever, but he was like, can I keep this? Because, I really do appreciate it. It's my first time ever being on the pier. I'd like to keep the rig if I can. I said, man, Abe and them, the boys was like, yeah, take it, man. Enjoy yourself. Good to meet you, And so, then this past weekend, this is where we start turning into our story here. This past weekend, we walked by foot and we came to this place at the inlets. It was on the side of the road where people fish, and everybody lines the curve up when the water comes into the inlets, because your fish are in there waiting to attack all the bait fish and stuff. And so this place was lined up, and there was a little spot left, but there was a guy at the entrance where we would normally set up at. So we started to go down in there, and he's like, oh yeah, come on down in here, guys. And so we went beside him and started just kind of fishing a little bit. But before we started fishing, I was kind of baiting stuff up and getting my rigs ready. And, the guy looks at me, he says, what are you guys fishing for? And I said, nothing in particular, just out here, just trying to have a good time, while we have a little bit of time. And so, I said, just trying to enjoy the day, my man. And I said, what about you? He said, well, I used to just, be like you. I used to fish for whatever until the locals taught me how to fish and do it the right way. And he just turned around, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess you're a pro. Here's where we're getting into this intimidator or an encourager. And so when he talked about it, he said, yeah, I use a certain color now, and I use this, and I only target one type of fish. And he's like, I live in West Virginia, and I'm not from here, but I come here twice a year, and I come to this spot, and I use this bait. And then he said, you come at the right place, my friend. He said, because the bite is on. The bite is on. And I thought to myself, well, hey, praise the Lord. I really didn't care either way because I figured we was going to catch fish anyway. I was just there to have a good time. And so, anyway, the guy, I seen he had a certain rod. And I said, how you like that new rod? Because I knew it was one that had just come out. And he's like, yeah, I like it. My other one broke and blah, 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 and he's like, it's okay. And you could tell it's just by his attitude, It was just like, well, you're not going to have a very good conversation with this guy very long. And so, anyway, it was just like you was thinking, man, he's just Mr. Know-it-all. It's like, I was sitting there thinking to myself, what can I possibly say to where this guy's not going to be arrogant? You know what I mean? And it reminded me of street preachers. It reminded me of Christianity. It reminded me of churches that I've been to before. But, I just wanted to, I was thinking about what if I was new to that area? What if I was new to fishing? What if I was new to what baits to use? Sort of like these other guys I had mentioned before in the beginning of the video. What if I were like them? What if I didn't know? What if I was needing an encouragement? What if I was needing information? What if I was needing to know how to fish, what to do, what to use, when to do it, what time, what fish, what am I fishing for? In saltwater, there's size limits. You got to have, it's got to be this long. It's got to be 14 and a half. It's got to be 16. It depends on what you catch. So I was, instead of the guy being, nice and kind of educating to me, he was just like, yeah, I was once like you too, I just fished for whatever until I got taught how to really do it the right way. And I was thinking, man, I actually know how to do it the right way. I'm just not telling you what all I know. Little did he know, I probably knew as much, if not more, than what he did. And I was thinking, man, this is just like Christianity. But he was talking about the locals. And I got home and I got to thinking about locals. I had locals in what we call today Christianity. I had locals. I had local leaders. I had elders. I had people that I look up to these days. And they've taught me how to do it the proper way. And when I say taught me, I'm saying as how to be a good street preacher. I want to be the best that I can be at what I do. God called me into ministering in the streets. God called me to be a minister in a lot of areas. But I always want to do the best I can do, be the best I can be. And in having that in your life, you've got to have elders. You've got to have leaders. You've got to have what these people would call the locals, teaching you how to do it right. Today, sadly, we're losing our locals. Some of our locals, talking about leaders, they're passing away. I've had several good elders in my life. Leaders that have gone on to be with the Lord. And I'll tell you, it's like when that happened, it's like my ministry took a hit. Now, some of you would say, well, how does that really affect you? It's because some of these people I talk to almost on a weekly, daily basis, and you was getting information coming and going constantly. It was just like being able to pull out your smartphone and just, speak to Siri on the phone and say, hey, Siri, how do I go to this event? What do I do? What do I say? And so that was sort of like losing some elders, losing some people that had a lot of pull in my life. And so, which made me think about how does this all tie together? I was a part of a church. I was sitting on my couch. Let me rewind it. I was sitting on my couch, before I got saved, and I had just got my house. And, was just sitting there, and for some reason, I just turned on. I'm not a television person. I don't watch TV. I've lived in my house now for 23 years, and I've probably watched it 2 hours. But for some reason, 23 years ago, I was sitting there, and I was, I would say, I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was close. But I was sitting there, and I was watching. I wasn't actually watching anything. I had a Bible sitting beside my couch, and trust me, I was not even saved. I wasn't even interested in the Bible. But for some reason, I picked up my Bible that morning, And you know how, as a non-believer, even sometimes for believers, you pick up that book and you say, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to get involved. I want to get involved in this. I want to do the best I can. I want to stick with this, and I want to better myself. And so, I was thinking about reading, but I never cracked the book open. And all of a sudden I seen this TV show come on. And there was this song playing, and all this man's hands put together with chains wrapped around them, and all of a sudden the chains started falling off in the intro of the TV show, and the chains started falling off, and it said at the end, it said, "And you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And then it had a phone number, and it showed an address, and I said, "Wow!" Or it showed the phone number first, and I told my wife, I said, "Hey, call that number." And I said, because I want to know where this place is at. I said, it's probably in Texas or, somewhere, 20 hours away. It's usually when something looks good, it's too good to be true. It's usually not something you can really go to. And so I saw this number, and my wife called the number. She spoke to a lady named Carmen, and she's like, "Yeah, we're in Moose Road, North Carolina, I think it was Landis, North Carolina. Or yeah, something like that, off of Moose Road." And we looked it up, and we was like, "Oh, it's like 45 minutes to an hour from us. This is going to be great." And so I told my wife right then, I said, "Let's get ready and let's go." She looked at me like I was crazy, and I said, "Let's go. I want to go. I want to see what this is about. This looked good." And so what it was a church, and they were singing and they were preaching. And I said, "Man, if this was real, if this was close by, this is something I want to do." And so we got ready real quick. We loaded up and we drove to this church, and we got there and we walked into the front door, and I kid you not, it seemed like, and if they didn't, maybe it really seemed like they did. I mean, it seemed like everybody and their brother came up to us and greeted us. They were an encouragement. It was just like they were saying, "Welcome back." It's like I was never, it's like I was always a part of that, and I never have left or something. They were so encouraging. They were so loving to us. They were friendly to us. And I was thinking, man, this is great. I love this. This is nice. And so, for 7.5 years, we went there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesdays, Fridays. I mean, we would drive there and we would drive home, drive back, drive home. I mean, we put in a lot of time, and once they got to know us after, quite a bit of time, we started doing things in the church. We started getting promoted. We started getting involved. I started going with the pastor everywhere. I started doing things with the pastor. I started going on visitations with the pastors, visiting people in the hospitals, doing funerals with the pastor, everything. It was just, it was great. And they had a television ministry, and that's how I found them. And we was so involved. And then, later on, of course, the pastor passed away, and things did not go well after that in the church. I mean, the young people moved up, and it became a mess. They sold the church. It sold like twice now. But, for those 7.5 years, we could not get enough. I mean, we had our Bibles open every night. It seemed like just 2 and 3, 4 Bibles just lined up, different versions, taking notes, looking through things, digging, because we were so encouraged. We wanted more. You guys ever been like that? Have you ever been a part of something that it seemed like you never, ever could get enough? You just wanted more and more and more, and you couldn't get it quick enough. And because you loved it so much, you told everybody that you come in contact with about it. Well, that's how it was for me. Then I met Brother Flip Benham from Operation Save America, and then I started doing abortion clinic ministry. And then I got to thinking, I'd done abortion clinic ministry for quite some time, and I was out. It just was not my thing. I loved going out there and being a part. I was a part of a lot of Operation Save America events, national events, local leadership conferences. I got involved in those things. We loved it. We was a part of it every year. And the national event fell on me and my wife's anniversary every year, so we would always take the kids and we would go. And it was just fun. That was what we did for our anniversary trip. But it was like when I got into that, I thought, man, there's got to be more to life than this. I mean, why are these ladies coming to the abortion clinic in the first place? Is there something going on that I need to be preaching against before they actually end up getting here to this point? So I started looking into street preaching. I started thinking, man, I mean, I want to know more about street preaching, but I was thinking, how am I going to find anything about street preaching? How will I find parties and clubs and bars and things? Because I didn't know nothing about all these things. Street preaching was totally new to me. And so I started Googling it. As crazy as that sound, I Google street preaching. And, of course, back in the days, first thing that popped up was official street preachers, Brother Reuben Israel. And, I started looking at him and I thought, I don't know, that's just not for me there. So I actually got my own soapbox. I'd seen Ray Comfort in The Way of the Master and things like that. So I got my little soapbox and I went to my own city and started preaching. And it became so boring because it was sort of like I was just repeating things and doing things that everybody else did. I wasn't trying to figure out what God wanted me to do. I just did what everybody else was doing. And this is where the story starts turning to something to where I think you guys will be encouraged. Is because, I never really thought to sit here and just, pray and pray and pray over God's perfect will for my life. Where did he want me to go? Who did he want me to preach to? When, where, what, how, what to say, when to say it? I never felt settled on that. And I went back to Googling preaching again. And meanwhile, I was praying about it, and I had seen Reuben, of course, and I had actually got invited to the New Orleans Local Leaderships Conference in New Orleans for Operation Save America, and I was actually down there, and I was going to be signed up to go to, I think it was Mardi Gras or Decadence or something like that, and I had never met street preachers before, but I was at this local leadership conference, and I was sitting there doing the recording for the event, and I actually came down, and as I was leaving, there was this lady sitting in the corner with a big Trust Jesus shirt on. And I had a Trust Jesus shirt on and or something like that. And when I left, I said, so where did you get your shirt? She said, well, I got my shirt from a brother out in California. And I said, well, that's where I got mine from. And so anyway, we'd found out, I said, well, I'm supposed to be back down here next weekend for an event, and I said, so I'm supposed to be staying at a place called Jesus Miracle Power. I'm supposed to be staying at a lady's house. She runs a drug rehab program. And she said, well, hey there, my friend, she said, my name's Janice. And she said, you're going to be staying at my house. She said, because I'm the one who all the preachers stay with. And I'm like, wow, small world, And so, anyway, I went the next weekend, got hooked up with Reuben and the gang back then, which back then it was a whole different crew. It's not the people that it is now. It was the real deal A team, man, it was great. It was a great team. And a big team, strong team, well unified, worked very well together. Didn't have a bunch of control freaks like you do now. Didn't have everybody telling you what you can and can't wear and can and can't say and how you can move, how you can stand, what signs you can bring, where you got to go to fellowship at. We didn't have all that nonsense. We had real fellowship back then. Now it's just, most of it I would have to say is it's like a show. You either fit in or you don't. And if you can, you have to prove yourself. And so, anyway, I got to preaching with these guys, and one thing led to another. I was just traveling everywhere, but, before I got, even, as far as doing street events and things like that, I did not know what street preaching signs was. I did not have a banner. I didn't really know how to do anything. But I had, asked a brother for a banner, and little did I know that, this brother would turn out to be one of my elders, currently today by the name of, Jim Weber. And, little did I know about this guy. I had heard Reuben talk about this guy, but I didn't know nothing about him, and, I was just trying to find a sign. I seen all the signs and I was like, man, how do you guys get such good equipment, So, me being a newbie, I'm trying to relate this to what I shared with you in the beginning about the fishing part. Me being that new guy, I put out an email and, I don't know if it was a phone call or whatever. It may have been a phone call too, or I don't remember. It's been so long ago, but anyway, this brother said, I'm going to send you a banner. And I said, oh, wow. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I thought I'd hit the jackpot, And so, anyway, some time had went by, and me and my family were going out of town that weekend. And I was actually going to Myrtle Beach to preach Harley Week for the very first time. That kind of tells you how far it was. And because I've been doing bike weeks for a long time. And so we was fixing to go out of town, and the mail lady pulled up as we were loading into my van. And we had this tube, and I unwrapped this little tube. It was like a little tube box, whatever. And man, it was a banner. And I unrolled that thing, and it said, "Trust Jesus" on one side, and on the other side, I forget what it said, but I'm telling you what, I tell you, I thought I'd hit the lottery. It was the best thing in the world. I mean, it's better than anything that I'd ever gotten, because street preaching was new to me, and I had found some people that do what I wanted to do. And then I found some guy who did not know me, who did not even, he's never seen me preach before. He didn't know anything about me. And I look back today and I say, what an encouragement Brother Jim Weber has been to me, and not only me, but people all across the world. Not just street preachers, not just churches, but people all over the world. If you will get some of his books and read about his testimony, read and see all the crowds that he preached to, and see where all he's been and what he's taught and the things that he says and preaches. He's not a little pansy. He's not a pushover. He's bold in his preaching. He's firm on what he believes. He's not a little wimp. He don't back down. He's very encouraging. Put it that way. He's not an intimidator. And that's what I wanted to get to here. I just wonder where my life would be today if the people that I had run into over 25, 26, 27 years ago would have been intimidators and not encouragers and not educators. Where would I be right now? Because God often uses the people who are educators, encouragers, to lift you up, to push you out into the calling that God has placed on your life. Now, you see, because these men were so good to me, it encouraged me to seek God even more. Then I found that prayer time. Then I found that time to where I said, Lord, I feel like I have friends now. I feel like I have tools now. Where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to preach to? What do you want me to say? And it seemed like year after year after year, God pushed me further and further and further into the ministry. And I gained more tools because the people like Jim and Reuben and some of those brothers, they saw me, they saw what I was doing, they had confidence in me, they called and encouraged me, they invited me, I preached. And like Brother Reuben, I mean, we were together constantly for years, even up until the day he died. Having, phone call conversations. I mean, it was so good. And today I want to ask you the question, are you the intimidator? Are you like this guy in the beginning of my video when I was asking him about the fishing and things like that? And he said, I was once like you too. I just wanted to fish for anything, but I learned how to do it the right way. I'm not like you are. Today I'm going to skip down right here. Talk about how do we know the difference between somebody who's intimidating, has that intimidating spirit, and somebody who has the mentoring spirit. What does it look like? What does somebody look like that has the intimidating attitude or spirit? What does it look like? Okay, have you ever seen videos to where it's all about them? Do you guys ever see YouTube channels where it's all about me, 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 me? It seems like today that's all we ever see. Is when you see a preacher now, it's everything's about him. Look what I did, and look what I did. Look what, these guys may want to do it this way, but I do it this way because this way is God's way. As if every other way is not God's way. You hear all these things. It's always about them. Number 2, fancy posts advertising new ideas. Oh, I'm sure you guys have seen this one. Fancy looking posts. Thank goodness AI come out, because if they didn't, these guys would still be stranded. But fancy looking posts and advertisements talking about all the new ideas, as if they have not read Ecclesiastes, that there's nothing new under the sun. New ideas having some old deadbeats performing and trying to carry out the new concepts. It seems like, like I said, thank goodness for AI that we can create images now with our pictures in it. And we look like this, come to our next event and come to this. And I say, well, that would be good if you had some speakers, some leaders, some elders that knew what was going on, that encouraged the body instead of intimidating the body, instead of trying to tell them what they can do and what they can't do, how they should dress and how they shouldn't dress. It would be nice if the pictures of those men were godly men. They were the men of old. I mean, they were men that encouraged. They were men who equipped, not tricked, not persuaded, not, condemned because they didn't join their group or say what they told them to say or come to their events. That's often what it looks like. It looks like a fancy picture on social media. Beware, there's a new conference coming to town. And you could be a part of this if you're chosen, I mean, it's a fancy looking picture. I got all the nice colors, makes them look really good. It's sort of like After Effects or Photoshop that takes a fat girl and makes her look beautiful. I mean, it takes a 300-pounder and it makes her look like she's 120 and she's into CrossFit and she's got long hair and she's beautiful and tan and whatever you want to call it. Modest lady. I mean, that's what it does. These new AI things, they make every street preacher look good when it's still the same deadbeats preaching and talking and doing the same things. Number 3, you'll know about that intimidating person in that spirit because they're always trying to have the last word. Always trying to have the last word. You can get into a debate with somebody and 25 videos later, they're still going to be ranting on about, whatever happened. They're going to make sure that they cover their tracks and get the last word. And that's what makes them intimidating. A lot of people says, I don't want to hang around somebody like that. Number 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5, talking about how good they are and their accomplishments. And I was talking to an elder the other week, Brother Weber, it's just, thank God that I still have some people like that I can talk to that keeps me in check. And he says, why is it that all these guys always post things about them? They post all these pretty pictures of themselves. They hardly ever promote somebody else. They don't ever promote that rookie. Oh, because if you promote that rookie, that guy that don't know how to preach very well, it may make you look bad. See, we're so concerned about how we're going to look. We don't want to promote the gospel. We don't want to promote the upcoming generation. We don't want to put them out there like our elders put us out there. They don't want to equip and to give you the tools. They don't want to give you the best things. The elders that are in my life now, they give the best things to you because, look, they're leaving this world. They're only here for a little while longer. And while they're still here, they're equipping the young men the best that they know how. So that when they see God, that God's going to look and say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You didn't just do what I told you to. You equipped everybody that came after you. You made sure that the gospel was going to be preached. Is that what you do? Are you that educator, or are you that encouragement? Or are you this guy who only brags about your accomplishments? It's all about you. You're the intimidator. Number 6, having to constantly stay on social media trying to boast or convince others to join them. I used to be on YouTube quite a bit. Nothing wrong with being on social media. But if you're on social media constantly trying to brag and boast about where you're at, what you're doing, what all you've accomplished in order to make people think that you're the real deal, you're the intimidator. Because it's so funny that when you brag and you boast about all these things that you're accomplishing and all these things that are coming to pass, we see no fruit. Now, of course, you see fruit. You see what you want to see, but where is the fruit that everybody else is supposed to see? Why is your area still the same? Why is it not being changed? Why is your city not being turned upside down? You know why? It's because you're busy trying to run to everybody else's city, going to places that you have no business going because you got to go and make this big scene, posting these pretty pictures as if you were doing all these great things. Colossians chapter 2, verse 8, it says, "Beware lest any man spoil you through the philosophy and vain deceit after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ." That's what I'm here to tell you tonight, guys. In Colossians chapter 2, he says, "Beware lest any man spoil you." Oh, guys, you can be spoiled today. Through what? Through philosophy and vain deceit after the traditions of men. You can be spoiled in the calling that God has been placed on your life because you're so busy trying to do what everybody else wants you to do. You're following the tradition of men. "Oh, come with us, brother. You can do what we do." I don't need to do what you do. I'm here to do what God wants me to do. I'm supposed to be my own man. I'm supposed to be the man who God has called me to be, who God has raised me up into. He has called me out. I'm supposed to be led by the Spirit of, well, right here, they never have a spiritual fruit. I'm supposed to be led by the Spirit of God, not by men. He said, "Beware lest any man spoil you." Guys, you'll get spoiled. You'll be destroyed. You'll be consumed, and you'll be doing all these fancy posts. It'll be all of a sudden become about you, your concepts, your ideas, your ways of doing things. You won't want to be that encourager any longer. But he said, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and it says, and not after Christ. Beware, because some people's going to make you follow after them and not after Jesus. Oh, I've been there. I've been there. I'll tell you, I want to go back to this right here. He says in Galatians chapter 1, verse 10, he says, "For do I now persuade men or God? That's what I just got through telling you about in Colossians chapter 2. It sort of goes right along with it. He said, "For do I now persuade men?" Is that what we're here to do, is to seek the approval of men? Because we've been intimidated? Because we've sort of been lied to, tricked, deceived? He said, "For do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet pleased men, I should not be the servant of Christ." Well, I tell you, I'm so glad that every elder in my life has always told me, "Brother, I'm here to encourage you to run further, to run harder, to dig deeper." These elders send me books, they send me banners, they send me buttons, they send me tracts, they send me t-shirts, they send me all kinds of stuff in order to push me further for Jesus in whatever God's called me to do. They have never, ever said, "Brother, this is the way you need to start ministering. I'm telling you, you need to quit doing this and you need to start doing that." However, they've told me things that I could improve on. They've given me advice. They've given me counsel. They've given me wisdom. They've rebuked me when I should have been corrected. But they've never told me to stop doing something because I'm just doing it wrong. They've always encouraged me to follow the calling that Jesus has put on my life. And not only have they encouraged me, they have equipped me. Because why? They're the educator in my life. They're the encouragement. Of course, Jesus is the big encouragement. Jesus is the big equipper. You know, his word, he says, "Thy word is truth." You'll know the truth will set you free. We're getting our counsel from God, but God has placed elders and leaders in our life. But if you are hooked up with an elder or a leader who is just constantly trying to tell you, "Well, do what we do. Come here, come do this, do that," you better be careful, because what you're doing, if you're not careful, is you're getting into this right here. Where was it? Colossians. Oh, I lost my place here. Yeah, Colossians chapter 2, "Beware lest any man spoil you." Oh, you'll get so trapped into doing things everybody else does, and you'll forget how you're supposed to preach. You'll forget where you're supposed to go to. You'll even forsake your prayer life instead of, saying, "Lord, where do you want me to be this weekend? Do you want me to be here, or do you want me to be, hey, I know that all these guys are going to be at this event, but do you want me there, Lord? Do you want me there? Because if you don't want me there, where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to preach to? Lord, prepare the hearts of the people that you want me to preach to. Show me the place. Give me the words." You see, we're forgetting that. We're forgetting that now. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind." You know, when I was thinking about this guy who was fishing at the beginning of the video I was telling you about, I was thinking about how rude he was and stuff. And, I got back to my, room, and I told my son, I said, man, thank the Lord that I'm not following him. You know what? I know how to do what I'm supposed to be doing. I know what I'm going to do. And thank goodness I don't have to follow everybody, because if you had to follow all these people today, you would be so discouraged, because people have become so intimidating. They have become Mr. Know-it-alls. Got to have that last word. Got to post all these fancy pictures. Man, look, if God's called you to go preach somewhere, just get your gear and go. You don't got to warn the whole world that you're coming to town. But it says, for God has not given us the spirit of fear. It seems like today that if we feel like that if we don't go with certain people and we're not a part of certain preaching teams, we feel like we're just not good enough. God has not given us that kind of fear. God has not given us that kind of attitude to where we feel like we've got to fit in, or we're not going to be good enough. We're not going to be effective. We're not going to have the power. It says, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of a power and of love and of a sound mind. God has given us more than enough. God will place elders in your life like I was telling you about that God gave me, my brother Reuben, brother Jim Weber, and some other people, Flip Benham. And these people, they're going to push you to go harder, faster, further, more than you've ever went in your life. They'll never try to hold you back. They'll never try to steal from you. They'll never try to one-up you. You ever see that today in ministry? Today, it seems like, oh, you're doing good with the groups as long as you don't try to overthrow somebody. You're doing good as long as you don't try to one-up the next man. You're doing good as long as you're not trying to occupy the same seat as this guy occupies, because if you do, they'll do something to knock you back and make you look bad. You don't want to get people like that now. They want to intimidate you. Oh, don't you try to steal my seat. You're not going to try to steal this program from me. We got a lot of people like that now. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, he says, study to show thyself approved unto what? He says, unto God, not to man. Study to show yourself approved, people, to God. A workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You see, I am so glad that everywhere I go, people know who I'm going to be. They know I'm going to be me. They know I'm going to be Brian. They know that I'm going to come with a rebuke. They know that I'm going to come with love. They know that I'm going to come with the truth. They know that I'm not going to waver. I'm not going to compromise. People know that. People know that I'm going to tell you to your face what I think about you. If somebody comes up and they say, well, I don't like you. I say, I don't really care what you think. I'm not a compromiser. I'm not a crowd pleaser. I'm there to come to do my job, what God has told me to do. I'm coming to say what I need to say, what God has told me to say, and he's allowed me to say, not what you think, not what you approve of. I'm going to wear what I need to wear. And see, I'm confident in that because I have studied the word. I know what he wants me to do. I know where he wants me to go. I know who he wants me to preach to, what to say, what not to say. And we should not be hanging with people who try to dictate what we do, what we say. If you look at all these other guys, these intimidating guys, everything is about them and their ways. Oh, well, if we go to this event, you won't find me saying this or doing this. Good for you. Why do you got to air that for everybody else to? You think everybody in the world's following you? Oh, guys, if you're following people like that, you need to get away from them. Because we as men of God need to stand bold in what he has called us to do, what he has told us to say, where he has told us to go to. If we need to confront police officers, we confront them. If we need to confront mayors and officials and whoever, mayor, whatever it may be, we confront them. If we need to love them, we'll love them. If we need to correct them, we'll correct them. But you know what? We do not need to be dictated. We don't need to be told what to do from another brother every time we show up to do something. Because it's just like 2 Timothy. We ought to study, number one, to show ourselves approved unto God, not unto man, unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed. Oh, I tell you today, you can get around some people and they're scared to say something around somebody else. I'll tell you, that happened a lot after Brother Reuben died. Man, people, they kissed his tail up until the day they died, until he died, and then they betrayed him. They talked crap about him. They lied about him, said all kinds of false things about him, slandered him and everything else. Only when he was dead only after he died, because, they didn't have the backbone and the guts to do it when he was alive. And I'll tell you, that's the way I want to die. I want to die doing what God called me to do. And that way, when I die, people's going to be ticked and they're going to be like, you know what? I mean, that guy, he was this and he was that. Oh, yeah, because people don't do what you want to do because you are an intimidator. I'm not saying most of you guys watching this. I'm just saying, if that is you, you need to repent of it. But most of the time, people are not studying to show themselves approved unto God. They're studying to show themselves they're studying to show themselves approved unto YouTube. They're studying to show themselves approved unto Facebook. Because they want to stir up these things. They want to tell you, oh, I know, here's a word you can't say no more. Okay, well then don't say it. Don't tell me what I am going to say, but if you don't want to say those words, don't say it. But don't push your stuff off on everybody else. We need to study to show ourselves approved unto God so that we are not needing to be ashamed because we know how to rightly divide the word of truth. We know what it says. We don't need chumps telling us what to say and what to do. We need the King of Kings telling us what to do, where to go, what to say, what to preach to, what to wear. We need the Spirit of God. Seems like we're forgetting that this day and time. I want to close with this verse right here. In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9, it says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labor. In verse 10, he says this. Now listen to this, guys. In verse 10, he says this right here. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. I want you guys to think about that tonight, guys. Are you an intimidator? Are you the one that makes all those fancy posts about you and your preaches and brag about all the things that you do and then make it sound like if you're only good enough, you can come, but if you're not good enough, you can't be a part. You're the intimidator. I say, woe unto those people. And I want to encourage you tonight to be the educator, to be the encourager, to be that encouragement into somebody else's life, like Brother Reuben and Brother Jim Weber was to me, and Flip Benham and a few others. They equipped me. And those that are still alive today, they still talk to me, they encourage me, they educate me. All because I don't know. I tell you, when I call my elders today, they sharpen me. They equip me. They challenge me. They encourage me to do what? To go further, to do more. And the reason why is because they know the calling that God has placed on their life. And because they know their calling, they have done so good with what God has called them to do, and they have done more than what God actually gifted them to do. They have actually taken other people under their wings. And they said, before I leave this world, I'm going to help encourage you, to equip you, to show you the things that God has showed me. I'm going to give you the tools that he gave me. And you know what that does in me? You know what that can do in you? It will encourage you. It will educate you on how to use those tools. It will encourage you on how to be an encouragement to somebody else. So that when you leave this world, you're going to leave your tools. You're passing that mantle. You're giving all the goods to somebody else. Oh, that's not an intimidator. That's a man of God. That's an educator. That's an encourager. He's willing to give you his tools that God has equipped him and given him so that he can make you a better you in Jesus' name. Not so that you can bully somebody or intimidate somebody and let them see that you're better than they are. They're giving you this. They're passing the mantle to you so that you will pass it you'll pass it along as well. So many people are intimidators today in churches, in ministries, all across this world. And we're leaving this world, guys. We better start learning how to be educators and encouragers and passing the mantle. Because as some of these elders in my life that may not be around for the next 20 years, man, praise God that they're passing videos, books, and tools, everything that we could possibly use to win somebody to the Lord. They're passing it. They're passing it quickly. They're not trying to intimidate or trying to be. They're not trying to be. Oh, look at me. They're not putting up these fancy posts. And I'll tell you, the reason why they're not is because they know where they stand in the Lord. They know what God has called them to do. They've been educated by God. They've been gifted their tools by God. Now think about Brother Jim, as I was mentioning earlier in this video. He started all these banners. He started all these signs. And look today, because of one man's willingness to be an educator and to be an encourager, God has used him to reach people all across the world today. And when he's dead and gone 10,000 years, if the Lord still is allowing this world to be here, whatever that was going to look like, signs and banners will still be here because of somebody's obedience and willingness to give. What's your videos look like today? What's your social media post looks like today? What does your conferences look like today? What does your events look like today? Do people look up to you and say, man, praise God, you're such an educator. You are such an encouragement. Because today I'm leaving this place more equipped than what I did when I came. Sort of reminded me of when we went saltwater fishing. I was telling you that in the beginning of the video. Little did those people know that we were rookies too, but we treated them with respect. We treated them like, hey, we were new too. I'm asking you to get, the question today, guys. What is your life like as a Christian? How does people look at you? Do they look at you and say, man, he's such a bully all the time, man. He it's his way or the highway. He won't let me preach with him. They won't let me do this, say this, do that, wear this, all this stuff. Or are you such an encouragement to where people want to be around you? Anyway, I hope this video helps you today. God bless you guys out there. Are you an intimidator or are you an educator? Are you an encouragement? Think about it, guys, because God has called us for such a time as this. We're called to be unique people. We're called all to be different. Look, we have the same goal. We're here to see people saved and set free. But we're here, like I said, we may have different callings. We may have to do it different ways, but we're all here to do the same thing, and that's to see people set free from sin and to make it into heaven. That's the final goal here. So God bless you guys. If you think this video will help somebody, share it with them. I appreciate the prayers. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.